Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Richard, DM Bloodworth or Bloodworth. It's the name I use when I am running games or at game conventions. Many people know me from my channel as Bloodworth, so there you have that. So as you can see on this, on the title here, could you play D&D with a Trump supporter? And this is my response video to Tabletop Family. Uh, it's a fairly new channel, blowing up. The creator over there. He has a dad who runs for his kids and some of their friends and others as well, and he really does delve into these topics that that come to his mind, that are issues of accessibility to his table, making games accessible for his young children and whatnot. And so he really is getting into the part of the hobby where you're thinking about the impact of what's going on at your table, and not necessarily just the social impact of it, but what is the impact of what I'm doing at my table to better the experience of my players. All right, so it's still in a gaming context for the most part. But this question here is something that he's thinking about, obviously, because we just had the inauguration, this past Tuesday, and since the election, there's been a lot going on here and there, and within our hobby as well, because there's certainly a big shift taking place within the hobby, and not just the tabletop role-playing hobby, but it's hitting video games and others as well. So there's a big culture war shift that's taking place right now, and so many people are going to have these concerns, about their tables and who was coming to their table. Now, in his case, and with his question, I am going to, point out one of these. My issue with the question itself is that it's not open-ended enough. It's a little bit too focused, and I prefer, as a retired school teacher, I prefer to have open-ended questions. All right, so it allows for different components to be input in there. So that's my only thing, is that this kind of drives the discussion in one direction, and I like to leave it more open than that. So what I put on my image here, right, and this is going to be the thumbnail that you'll see. Player, where do I list my political beliefs on his character sheet? And the DM says you don't. All right, and that's basically where I'm coming from with this. All right, so let me shift views here so you can see how I would have put this question out there, and then I will talk a little bit about it. So, could you play a TTRPG? I removed the D&D because we're talking about universally the entire hobby, with a insert a political affiliation supporter. All right, and this could be any kind of political affiliation. This could be a political party, this could be a religious belief, this could be any kind of, it could be a gender issue, it could be a race issue, it could be whatever. Anytime, I know there'll be arguments, oh, my being is not political, but once you attach an agenda to anything, then it becomes political. All right, now my question is, and it's one that I have an answer for myself, but my question is that, is your gaming table open to politics? And I think that's the real question here, is that, are you as a game master going to open your table to politics? Instead of looking at it in the direction of, are you going to let a player come to your table if they have a certain political belief? I think you have to be more proactive. Are you, as a game master, going to entertain political beliefs in general at your table. And so where I come from it and what I've always stated is that my table is open, all right, to anyone. First come, first serve. All right, I have a group of players that, and the group of players has fluctuated here and there, but it's at least 12. Not all at one table at one time, but between the several games that I run or play in, actually it's probably closer to 16 or 18 players overall, and not one of them I knew. Now I play online. Not one of them I knew beforehand. All right, and some of them have been with me pushing on 3 years, and I don't know their politics. All right, I know that some of them are military veterans. That's something that we had conversations with, but I don't know how they voted in the last election, and I don't care. All right, I don't know what their sexual orientations are. I know some are married or whatever, so I can kind of guess there, but it doesn't come up. All right, I don't know what any of their religions are, or even if they have a religion. It's just not important to me. What I do know is I know their names. I know the characters that they're playing. I probably know more about their characters than I do about them. All right, and that doesn't make it that we're any less concerned about one another as a person. All right, it's just that our interactions are more so in the context of the game than they are in individuals. All right, because we are playing online. These are not people that that I have met in person or they're local people. Then of course I would know far more about their personal lives than I do, but it's just not something I'm concerned about. Now, Tabletop Family, he's running games in a very closed system. All right, he's running them in his home with his own kids and maybe some of their friends, and then others as well in his home. All right, and so his table is actually less open than mine is. Even though I'm not playing in person, I'm playing, via VTT and Discord. But when I go to a convention, it's completely wide open. I can't control who signs up. So in almost every single time, I run typically 3 to 5 games during a convention. So I am going to have anywheres from, let's say, 18 to 30 brand new people that I've never met before coming to my table and sitting down. And I only have a few expectations of the players coming to my table. And I let them know what those expectations are. And that includes my home games and, convention games, let's say. And I always inform them of what they can expect from me as a game master. So my expectations for my players is that when they come to my table, they're coming to my table to play a game. To run their character, to get along with everyone at the table, and hopefully to have a good time. All right, and then as they go, hopefully I'll see you some other games. Sometimes I end up being a player with someone that I just ran the game the night before at another table. All right, or this past weekend I was at a convention and I had joined a game and there was a player in that game that ended up being in the game I was running the next night. So and I knew that player from YouTube prior to that. So that was the closest to actually knowing somebody at the table for that, for last weekend's convention. But other than that, I'd never played with him before, didn't know how he was going to play as a player in my game. It was all a brand new experience for me. There was no vetting. I didn't say, hey, you know what, you and I don't agree on, you know, Wizards of the Coast. You can't play at my table. All right, and that was the gist of, this question. I think was that should you gatekeep your table based on political affiliation, and and again, the the original the original vlogger was not suggesting that he should. He was asking, like, where does the community stand on that idea? And I was happy to see, had like 300 comments in the comments section, and I was happy to see that, I didn't come across any that blatantly came straight out and said, "Oh no, you shouldn't let them play." I've seen that elsewhere, but not there in that particular thing. So when people are coming to a table, especially in a convention setting, um, they're probably a little bit nervous too coming to a table because you know they're not guaranteed a good experience. Like, oh, I hope this DM knows what he's going to be doing, or game master knows what he or she is going to be, doing. Um, Now, I've been very fortunate in the games that I've always played in. I've always had, very good game masters. So I've been lucky, and I hope to be a very good game master, or at least competent enough that you're still going to have a good time, at my table at a convention. But there's no litmus test to sit down at a table, and there shouldn't be. The only thing that you should require as a game master for people coming to your table is that they're coming to your table with the intentions of playing a game, getting along with everybody, and having a good time. All right. And my responsibility as somebody running the table is to, you know, run a game that runs smoothly, that allows everyone at the table to be engaged, is, to be understanding, and to be helpful if they're having issues with any, understanding of the game or whatnot, and walking them through it, and or telling them, listen, don't worry about it, let's just move on and go. You have to be very polite, very, you know, um, very helpful and understanding that they may be playing a game system for the first time, and so you have to be open to um, teaching, that teaching certain things to them to allow them to get re-engaged and move forward. And so those are my requirements basically. Come to the table ready to play. I'll provide you a character sheet. You could use my dice if you need them. I can, do all of those things for you. Um, I will explain things if you need to. So come to my table ready to play and get along with everybody at the table, and hopefully just remain engaged. That's the other thing that I kind of tell people, that, I really do have an expectation that, when it's not your turn, you know, you're not on your phone, you're not reading a book, you're not doing this or that and everything. You're paying attention to what is going on so that you can be ready to move forward. That is the only thing that I would say to a player, several times. If that doesn't sink in, then maybe weeks down the road, it'd be like, hey, you're just not keeping up. You're not, fitting in with this here. Politics doesn't come in. Who you voted for doesn't matter. What your gender is doesn't matter, or your religion, or your, any of those things. So no political or social affiliation matters at the gaming table. What matters is that you're there, you're present, you're engaged, and you're pleasant to play with. You're getting along with everybody at the table. And again, the key to success, the one marker of success is that everyone has a good time at the table. All right. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a good time every single moment of the game. Your character dies. You're not in a good moment in that time. But we can move on and get past that. You're not always going to roll a critical success. And not all of your ideas are always going to work out, or sometimes even be entertained, right? But that's part of the gaming experience. So, I hope to, and I'll switch back over. So I hope to get back to the main question here was, could you play D&D with a Trump supporter? The answer is you really shouldn't have to know that. I mean, clearly, like I said, I was at a convention, and prior to the convention, weeks ago, I did a video because I saw a community post where it was like, oh, which shirt do you think I should wear at this convention that we went to? And, I didn't reveal the person's name or anything, but it was a very political shirt. It was like, it was something like an anti-Republican shirt or whatever. And I was basically like, you're going to that convention with all of the wrong intentions then. And that's why I did this. That's why I did this thumbnail. All right. So the player asked the dungeon master, "Where do I list my political beliefs on the character sheet?" And the DM said, "You don't." All right. That's what it's supposed to be. So I went to this convention. All right. The most political thing that I wore at this convention was this hat. All right. So everyone knows that follows my channel. All right. That I'm a U.S. Army veteran. All right. I sometimes I wear the hat. Usually wear the hat. Sometimes I don't. And but that is my only. Excuse me. That is my only political statement. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. All right, and you can take that however you wish to take that. I'm an American citizen. You can take that however you can take that as a political thing if you wish. It's not something that comes up in my games though. All right, and or how I run them or how I play them. So that's the point I'm making here, and I hope that tabletop family, that you see that as well. Is that it's not an important question to be had at your table. It's certainly not something that should be taking place during your game. Now, I will point out another one of the things that sometimes people will say was like, oh well, you can't remove politics from Dungeons and Dragons because there's kings and queens and there's slavery, or there's wars taking place, and there's peasants, and there's the aristocracy, and you have all of these political themes. All right, that's where they lose the argument. These aren't real world politics taking place, even though they may have existed in the past or even in the present. But those are political themes, all right, and they're put into a gaming world that a game master is running because having a society, no matter how small, all right, you can have a hamlet of 40 people. There's some kind of a political hierarchy taking place in that small hamlet. All right, just as if you had a megacity of 65 million people that stretches across the entire east coast of the United States, there's going to be politics in there. But that doesn't mean that it's real world politics. That doesn't mean that, in your gaming world, Donald Trump was just inaugurated on the past Tuesday, and now we have to make that part of what our elves and dwarves, fighting the goblins are going to be dealing with. It's just separate escape from the real world and immerse yourself in your gaming table and what you're looking to do there. And everyone will walk away in a far better place, if that's the way that your table is being run. You know, someone that's hyper political coming into your table and then getting into arguments, they're not happy doing that. They're certainly not going to have an enjoyable time getting into these arguments that have not, of course not. You're not going to be happy with that happening either, and neither will any of the other players at your table, because that's not what you're all there for. Oh, I heard another commenter that, was saying, oh, I would just kick them off my table. Do that in a con. Do that at a convention where they paid to be there. All right, and then they sometimes even tables have a fee attached to the ticket sales because it's going to charity or whatever, but they paid that, to be there too, and you're going to kick them off because maybe they foolishly wore a Trump hat or a Harris Biden hat or whatever your affiliation is. Like I said, it doesn't matter the affiliation. And they sit at the table and oh no, you can't sit at my table. Oh, no, I signed up for this. I paid the $2 to be here. I paid, I blocked out a 4-hour slot to be here, and you can't do that at a convention. All right. I guarantee you, complaints will happen and you may not be able to run at that convention again. All right. And that's really the way it should be handled. So the gatekeeping over politics is not something that should take place. The only time you should gatekeep your table is if someone comes to your table with the intention of disrupting it. All right, that's the only time. All right, if they come to your table with the intention of disruption. But otherwise, everyone, no matter what they look like, even no matter how they speak, all right, is not, is not, I don't mean tone or anything like that. I'm talking about, whether they have an accent or something like that. Your table should be open. All right, bottom line, my table will always be open to anyone that wants to take a seat that's there to play. All right, and I think that's the best way to handle it. So I hope this is pretty clear and to the point. I hope it's a good response. I hope that Tabletop Family takes my suggestion about more open-ended question is probably better because you'll get, I think, more. I think it'll open it up to more different directions of conversation than making it hyper-focused on just one game and one political support system. All right. So thanks a lot, and there's others talking about this as well. I suggest that you look at other channels and see. I know I just saw DM Lair did a great one too. Pretty much we were kind of in line anyway with what we were saying. It's like he was of the same. I think his last name's Hart. I forget his first name, but he was like, no, it doesn't. You gotta play a game, So. I'm glad to see that I'm on the same page as some others as well. And like I said, most of the commenters on the on Tabletop Family was in the same position as well. So you all have a great one, and hopefully this thing will run its cycle and then disappear. Not that it was a bad question to ask or anything like that, but let's be sure that if we are going to talk politics, we're talking about politics and gaming at your table, and that's the way I like to try to keep it at. Have a good one. Take care.